It is now my opportunity to give you an update of what has happened since last we've met, whether it was by teleconference or in person. And just let me know, we're wired up here, so let me know if it doesn't work. So this, as I said before, is the 95th meeting of our council. This is the open session, and I have an opportunity today to give you a bit of a budget update. We have more news today than previously, and also to remind you of some of the things that are happening or acquaint you with some of the things that are happening at HHS and NIH, as well as the NACNR updates that you look forward to. So we do, this is a year when we do, despite some of our difficult steps along the way, we do have a budget, and it is a good budget, and so I'm excited to be able to tell you this. If you look, this shows the recent appropriations history, which despite some of the difficult or tortuous paths that we've taken to get here, if you look, the budget history for NIH over the past couple of years actually is a bit better than you might think when you reflect of some of the journey that we have traveled to get here. But this year in particular, we have a really much better budget. We have a 5.2% increase appropriated to us. The overall NIH increase at 8.8 includes set-aside funds for things that you have heard me speak about previously, the Brain Initiative, Alzheimer's disease, and also the Precision Health or the All of Us Initiative. Those funds do go to a central place and then are distributed out. And some, but not all of those become part of the base, and many of those funds do not because they're earmarked one-time onlys. But our increase is 5.2%, which is the appropriated increase. There may be the Secretary has some transfer authority for central programs, as does the NIH Director, but typically what our appropriation is listed as is quite close to what we do get. In fact, we look back at last year, I've been waiting for us to break through the 150 million mark. So it turns out that we did last year. It was sort of one of those mathematical approximations, and I wasn't sure that we would, so I didn't announce it to you, but it turns out we did just over the mark. But this year we're very comfortably over that at 158 million. And so we are really excited that we will be able to fund more of the really good science that's coming into us. It's always a struggle, and we are appreciative that you're bearing with us, and also appreciative that you are helping us articulate the importance of the science, and first of all, articulate the science and help us to advertise, to get that word out, and also to underscore the importance of it. It makes a difference when Congress and the community at large hears it from you, because you speak with such authority and such passion, and it's really your work. We speak with authority and passion as well, but we're really speaking, it sometimes seems a little more self-serving when we speak about it, because we are the government to whom the appropriations are given. And so we're very excited about this. It will enable us to move forward in new directions based on some of the science that you all will see coming before you in this council. So when we get an appropriation, what does it look like? I know I show you this pie graph each time, the proportions do not change substantially, but the numbers within them, of course, do. So that you can see most of our funding, the appropriation that we get, the majority, close to 80%, goes out to the extramural community to fund research and training. That includes the centers, the other research, which are primarily all K awards, and the training, which is the 5%. So some of the R&D goes out to you. Some of that is used up in TAPS to support things such as review and CSR and some of the clinical things that are available, et cetera. But the RPGs, centers, other research, and training all go out to the extramural community. The intramural program is 8%, which compares to the 10%, which is the average across NIH, 10 to 11. The RMS is our overhead, which it's not fair to compare it to the 50+% that the universities get, but just to give you a relative approximation, the 11% overhead is considered reasonably modest in most corporations these days. So moving into some of the changes that have taken place in HHS, recall that we are one of the we're actually the largest component of Department of Health and Human Services, and that brings a lot of attention to us, and it also underscores why sometimes you have commented that we're a little conservative here, but we are the government, and also we are, as the largest component of HHS, we are a component that many people look to for modeling of behaviors. So we have a new secretary. Alex Azar is confirmed as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. He has been on board less than a year now, and he's already visited NIH and spent a substantial amount of time with us. We're very excited that he is someone, he jokes about that he's a lawyer, and he is in charge of a number of people in the health professions, including physicians. And so he says he feels like he has a lot of homework to do to work on that communication system. But he is someone who has been in the private sector. He's been in industry. He was ultimately, before he left, senior vice president and then president of Eli Lilly. And he also was part of the previous Bush administration under Tommy Thompson as the secretary, and he rose during that period of time to be the deputy assistant secretary to Secretary Leavitt. So he was in the department for 8 years at a really high-level positions, and so he does understand how the government works. He understands how the department works, and he also understands health systems and pharma in particular. So we're really pleased that he's so tuned in and seems also very positive about NIH and what we will be able to do. So we have gotten off to a really terrific start with him and are really quite pleased. Robert Redfield was named the director of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. He has really just been sworn in recently. He is a well-known AIDS researcher for a number of years. He has about 40 years in the field experience. He was the co-founder of the Human Institute for Virology at University of Maryland and has had other positions in the government. He is quite well known and prestigious in the scientific arena of HIV/AIDS. So moving to National Institutes of Health, you will be hearing in just a few minutes from Dr. Mike Lauer, who's the Deputy Director for Extramural Research, and he will talk to you about the changes in clinical trials and some of the rules and regulations governing that and some of the principles that have changed. And so we particularly wanted to hear from him because so much of what we fund, the majority of what we fund, is clinical research or has a clinical thread to it. So we wanted to make sure that he could come and you could get you get the benefit of hearing him discuss this in person, but also to have the opportunity to ask questions. And so I hope you have some good questions lined up for him. Now I'll just briefly go through this. We're not going to read. Essentially, the four components of the changes with the clinical trials would be that clinical trials now come in response to announcements. So it has to be either a program announcement or an RFA, so that they don't come in over the transom anymore. Now those are reasonably generic announcements, and we have signed on to them. But so that it does need to come in response to one of those. There are also clinical trial specific criteria that are more detailed than what was previously used. So they will focus a little bit more on patient safety and on some of the details of the design. The other two are that there will be a new human subjects information form, so that this is a new form, which makes sense because since the rules have changed, you would need a new form. We are the government, and we need to make sure that form fits. But that's a form which we have tried very hard to make certain that it's reasonably straightforward, it's fairly easy to fill out, et cetera. And because we're still rolling these things out, we are much more receptive to feedback on these forms. So that's number 3. The fourth one is one that you have heard about because it's been a long time coming, and that's the use of single RIBs, even for multi-site studies. I'm actually particularly excited about that one because so much of the time that you spend getting things up and running is getting IRB clearance. And the more IRB clearances you need to get, the longer it takes. And often, each one, you pile them up in line, but then some of the later ones you're looking for have different guidance or different requirements than some of the earlier ones. So we feel that this will be an enormous help. It takes a little time to get the clearance, but at least you're operating with the same set of rules. And so we feel that actually will be an enormous help. And this is something that many of you know that we pioneered in the HMO Collaboratory, the projects that we were, that was a major initiative of about 5 years ago and still continues today at NIH. So some of those opportunities that we invite you to join us with and suggest that you apply for funding in turn out to be really like experimental think tanks and places where we can try out things that we then can learn from and then to scale up to larger audiences. And this is an example of that. So, but Mike will be here in a little while and he will go into more detail on this. So an update on the All of Us project, which used to be called Precision Medicine. The biggest component of that is All of Us, and that really is the large-scale enrollment study to sign up 1 million plus individuals as part of this endeavor to be able to eventually collect data, that they will put their data into this, and that data will be available to do clinical studies and studies on the data. And so the idea is that this would ultimately reduce the need for creating new cohorts for each clinical study that you propose to do or anyone else proposes to do. And then those studies disband, the cohorts disband, then you start over again with the next study. So kudos to Michelle for doing that and for bringing the Institute front and center in this effort. Okay. So just a quick, I'm not going to read through all of this, but this just as a refresher for those of you that have additional questions about this, that there are a number of advantages of this study, of this initiative for both the participants and the researchers. And so we're still in the formative stages. It just rolled out for people across the country to sign up last week, so that we're just, the actual signing up for this for the general public has just opened, but we already have a number of people signed up from the satellites that have been held, and so that there are opportunities for moving forward in a number of different kinds of ways. Now, the major pieces of this, just so you know, the major pieces of this include these 6 components. There's a data and research center, which will over time be available to everyone. There's a biobank for specimens. The Participant Technology Systems Center is really where we're trying out a number of new web-based platforms to communicate with all of the folks across the country, as well as those in the study. The Participant Center Network, where the direct volunteers can participate and communicate with us to join into the All of Us. Also, the healthcare provider networks. We have a number of new and creative partners in this endeavor that NIH has not been able to partner with before. And so we're very excited. This opens up a number of new opportunities, and we intend to help you take full advantage of those. And also the Communications and Community Network, which most of you know we've been particularly active in. In fact, Francis went to Columbia in New York as part of the rollout, and that's something that many of you know that Liz Cohen has been working with that group and with that historic church for about 20 years now, and was instrumental in getting that into the application. So we're excited about that. NIH has a new initiative. In response to the concerns about opioid and the additional funding moving in that direction, one of the early things that we have done is to launch the national, the HEAL initiative for the national opioid epidemic. And so this really is, this is going to be a rather comprehensive initiative that involves involves scientific participants, involves patients, also involves, and this is very important, the drug companies and the pharma companies. We've been engaging with them for some time in other initiatives, but this is a large one. You may have read recently the advisory committee to the director weighed in on our partnership with the drug companies and indicated that they were supportive of the partnership. This is the advisory committee for Francis, supportive of the partnership, but that we are not accepting funds from those companies. So we're sharing intellectual capital from them, but not green capital. The Lasker Clinical Research Scholar program is open again for applicants, and we encourage you, if you have talented young folks at your universities in your programs, to please be in contact with our intramural program. Dr. Ann Cashin will help you get to the right place and help you to be able to mount a response to this. Recall that we do have one Lasker Clinical Scholar, Jessica Gill, who is actually in the audience here. And so it is possible, and it is relevant to all of you. So please sharpen your pencils and think about putting your really talented people to work on this. We're happy to help. So just looking through, recall also that NIH has sponsored activities and announcements the same way that each of the institutes do, so that although we all have our own initiatives that are scientifically specific to institutes and centers, the NIH we participate in the ones that are trans-NIH, and so I want to make sure that we bring those to your attention. We have done particularly well in many of these, especially the microbiota has really had an enormous impact on our field and is changing it in ways that we might not have imagined early on. So moving a little bit closer to home, the last part will tell you some of the things that have changed here, all of which are pretty exciting. Again, I want to thank our retiring council members, James Corbett, Nancy Rediger, and Meredith Rowe, for their willingness to participate in yet one more council meeting while we're waiting for the onboarding of the next group, the next cohort. You have all been very strong members, very vocal in a good way, because we really like that. We like the lively discussions. And the one advantage of your coming back, besides the advantage that we have in having your input, is that we will be able to celebrate tonight, because as you know, we were not able to meet in person at the last council. To remind you of the upcoming directors' lectures, Jackie Taylor is coming in May 22nd to talk about her work and her programs in health disparity and improving the health of African American women in particular with cardiac issues. So we're looking forward to that. And also in September, Anne Marie McCarthy will come and talk to us about her scientific programs in pediatric pain. She's well known in that area, and it'll be good to hear all of that about her programs in one setting. So just a reminder that all of the director's lectures are recorded and archived on the NIH YouTube, so we want to bring your attention to the last one if you haven't seen it yet. But these are a wonderful resource for students, because we do have the leaders in the field describe their entire programs of research in a very economic, less than 1 hour setting. So the boot camp for this year, the boot camp for 17 was held from omics to data science. That is also available on the website. The first day lectures will be available, and the 18 workshop will be starting in just a short period of time. The enrollment for that is closed, but just to let you know that those are very popular. They are timely, they change each year, and we do, if you think you might want to be part of it, if you think you want your students or anyone, the minute you start thinking about it, check the website, because when the enrollment in it opens, it does fill up literally within hours. So please, we post ahead of time when it's going to be. Also, the summary for the Caregiving Summit from last year and an accompanying editorial is now available, and Nursing Outlook has just come out this last month's issue. We also have a very detailed summary of that on the website so that you can look at what some of the ideas that were put forward, some of the gaps, and some of the scientific thinking moving forward from the very illustrious group that was there. The National Research Roundtable papers from 2017 are now published in the Journal of Nursing Scholarship. The 4 major talks from that meeting were all, very well received and peer reviewed, and they're in that in the 17 journal. The papers from this workshop, even though we had to do that by teleconference because we were closed because of wind, that that was wind. That was not the snow. That was weather, but it was wind. And so we did that by teleconference. But the papers were just as good, and on teleconference we just couldn't present them to such a large group, the larger group. But those papers will be available so that everyone will have access to those. Okay. So just a few honors as we're closing today. We like to make note of when our staff accomplish. They're always accomplishing wonderful things, but in particular when their accomplishments are noted by outside groups. And so we have NACNR scientists who have received the honors from the American Academy of Hospice and Palliative Care. And so we really want to commend them for the presentations that they did at the meeting, which received best of the year research honors for those papers. So we're very pleased that honor has been given to the staff, and also that it's been given to the science, which is really exciting for us. We also have a Medlineplus Collaboration, which is intended to work with patients and families. It really is Medline has extended its research of its magazine, and it is now has an arm that communicates with the patients and families, and this is intended to address patients and families who are living with a serious illness. And so it is a way that we can reach out as a research agency to be able to reach out to the families and patients in a more personal way. As I said before, we have a number of announcements that are active in addition to the Trans NIH announcements. And those you see before you, I won't read them, but you can see it is a good way to focus on the important areas of science that we want to continue to create critical mass. The Summer Genetics Institute last year was another big success. I have never still been able to figure out how people can work so hard and enjoy it as much as those who come to participate in this institute. But so we will be holding this year's will begin in the first week in June. Obviously the registration period is closed, but again, this is very popular, but it takes a little bit longer to fill up than the boot camp, so you have a better chance of getting into that. So the boot camp I mentioned before for this year for the methodologies, boot camp is entitled Precision Health, Smart Technologies, and Smart Health. So it does focus on the use of some of the newer smart technologies to do measurements in clinical studies. We also, as part of this, have the first day in the afternoon will be an NIH-wide symposium, and so that it will be involve a much larger group, and therefore more people will have access to the information. So and that also will be filmed and archived. But the format's a little bit different, and it's a way to try to open up the course a bit, since we do have a large enrollment of close to 175 people, but the demand is such that it fills up in hours, and so we want to try to make it more open. And so this first afternoon will be larger and more inclusive. Okay. Also wanted to bring to your attention, I know that we have many opportunities in the intramural program, and I've said it's from high school on. So this, about a week ago, we had the NIH Postback Poster Day, so that the post-baccalaureate students or post-baccalaureate individuals who come to NIH to participate in research in the summer have a poster session where they can talk about what they do. And so we had 9 of these postbacks this summer. Pam Tamez has outdone herself in getting them to sign up and also monitoring them throughout the summer. But they, so this is the group that we had last week, who've been here, for a period of time working on these research projects. And they all, and as you can see, we have, as always, have a really diverse group. They were extremely articulate in describing the science. They had obviously all practiced, but they really were very good at describing it. They could answer questions. They were very supportive of each other, which is always good to see. And the young man in the center with the reddish shirt is applying to nursing school. So he's setting the bar for the rest. We'll have to see how that goes. But anyway, they're very excited to be here. And so after spending a period of time at NIH, it was good to see that their level of enthusiasm was so high. And I was reflecting, that you don't always see that level of enthusiasm in some of the more advanced students. And so I'm wondering at what stage we start to extinguish that and what we can do about it. So Jessica Gill has been asked to serve on the National Academy of Sciences Committee on looking at issues related to the VA system, clinical issues and safety issues, and to look at some of those processes. So we're really excited about that. They actually came to find her as opposed to us seeking them out, which is always nice. She's also received an award for funding from the Chuck Knoll Foundation, which is dedicated to brain injury research. And so we're really pleased that gives her an opportunity to extend her work even further. So congratulations to Jessica. We also have another intramural tenure track individual who's making a name for NIH and for our program. So it turns out that the American Association of Gastroenterologists has their version, a national version of a Shark Tank at their national meetings. And so it's very much like the television Shark Tank. And so people present their inventions and their work at this Shark Tank. And so it was quite a large group. It was actually several hundred, as I recall, people who had presentations in the Shark Tank. And so Wendy Henderson from our intramural program, tenure track, and Chang-Hee Kim, who is her collaborator from GoDX, won the Shark Tank. So we're very, very proud of them. I think they're thrilled, of course, and they've gotten quite a bit of publicity for themselves and for NIH, which we are always excited about. So we don't know where it's going to go from here, but the group always follows through with trying to promote these inventions. So we'll see how that goes. And Polly Joseph, our assistant clinical investigator, also in the room over in the front row, has just received the Penn Nursing Alumni Award. So they obviously are as proud of Polly's efforts as we are at NIH. So we want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. It's quite an honor from a very good school. And these hits just keep coming. So Kristin Weaver, who was part of our graduate partnership program, who just graduated last year with her PhD, received from the American Association of Colleges of Nursing, received the Outstanding Dissertation Award for the year for the entire population. As you know, that AACN covers 650 schools, about 400 of which have graduate education. And it's a very large meeting. So Kristin received the Outstanding Dissertation Award for the entire group. So we're very proud and pleased. She is now doing a postdoc at Johns Hopkins, and so we feel that she's launched now. So just a few more in closing. We have some more changes at NACNR and things to brag about. One of which, Jerry Miller has received a very prestigious national award from the American Association of Hospice and Palliative Care Medicine and this award is for people who have made major contributions to the field over a period of time. So it's not specifically for the presentations of science that I showed you before. This is for her overall efforts and her contributions to the field, which is a very unusual thing for Fed to get, actually. So congratulations, Jerry. Okay. Lynn Adams, we're on a roll here. So Lynn Adams also from the Palliative Care and End of Life group has received the Purdue University Hall of Fame Award, which is also, as you know, Purdue is well known for a number of programs, on one of which is their nutrition program, which Lynn was part of and has received the Hall of Fame Award. And so that's quite, it is, as it suggests, quite an honor. So congratulations, Lynn. Okay. And David Banks, who is our training officer, has received the very first NIH Diversity and Inclusion Award from last year's NIH Directors Award ceremony. This is an award that was created in honor of Dr. Yvonne Maddox, who is on the left side, and you all know her really well. She was the Deputy Director for the Child Health Institute for many years, and is now the Research Dean at Uniformed Services across the street, but is known for her work and diversity while she was at NIH. And so David, also known for his work in diversity as well as training, received the very first award of this new award. So we're really excited that he received the award, but also that it was that he's the first recipient. That's a particularly strong honor. So David, congratulations. And David is modest enough that he refused to let us put the award in the first time, the application. So hopefully by now he's glad. So that brings us to the end of my update and report for today. There are additional handouts of a number of things that have happened that are available at the door. And so I would like to, so I'll close my comments now, and then we'll hear from the next speaker as soon as I introduce him.